Talk to the pro-Brexit Conservative MP Peter Bone. Mr Bone, many thanks indeed for joining us this afternoon. So the Prime Minister is due to make a very important speech tomorrow. What do you hope to get out of that speech?
Well, we seem to have a united cabinet. We seem to be able to put our case, and shame the European Union can't seem to agree to anything. It's a bit Richard Barnier to say there's a problem when it's his side that being so intransigent.
Talk tomorrow about a two-year Brexit transitional deal. The Prime Minister is saying that the United Kingdom will pay our dues. Are you happy with those comments?
Well, you know, that's speculation because there are some fundamentals here, aren't there? The British people voted to come out of the EU for, I think, a few reasons. One was ending free movement, that's essential, making our own laws in our own country, being judged by our own judges and not paying billions of pounds to the EU each year. Now, if a deal encompasses all those principles, then it's a good deal. And I can't imagine that the government is going to stray from those lines. Whether the European Union is going to ever agree to anything because they believe in this, you know, united European superstate is another question. But I think our position will be a lot clearer tomorrow.
One of the fundamentals for the Europeans, at least, is this whole issue of the divorce bill. How much would be too much for you?
Well, any divorce bill would be too much for me because we've paid net into the European Union, and I really mean net, £200 billion. So if there's going to be any divorce bill, which is a very strange idea, is that it should be to us. And obviously the European Union, have a huge trading surplus with us, so they need to do a deal with us far more than we need to do a deal with them. So I wouldn't be paying them anything for access to their markets. I think that would be ludicrous.
So are you prepared to crash out into WTO rules if a deal isn't established?
Well, crash out. I mean, most of our trade around the world very successfully, and I've been in business before I became an MP, was on WTO rules. There's no problem with that. The people who would be penalised the most will be the EU. We would not be penalised in any way the same way. And in fact, because of the devaluation of the pound, our exporters are hugely better off. So coming out and going on to World Trade Organization rules is perfectly acceptable. That's a detail. It wasn't, you know, it's not, you know, whether we have a free trade area with them or WTO, it doesn't matter. That's not going to affect the fundamental principles of why we came out of the EU, but we shouldn't be worried about going on to WTO rules. Quite the contrary. The
government is expected to pay somewhere in the region of £820 billion next year. Is a figure for £20 billion not a small sacrifice in order to establish a smooth transition?
Well, if you ask my constituents, now in Wellingborough we want an urgent care centre, and we've been campaigning for years, and that's a few £1 million. Now we're told there's not enough money for that. Well, if we're then told we're giving £20 billion to subsidise Romania and Poland, I think my constituents, and I think constituents around the country, will be furious about that. So the idea that we continue to pay vast sums of money to the EU would completely break what was one of the main issues in the EU referendum. So I don't think for 1 minute that the government will contemplate that.
How long do you think the united front between the cabinet ministers will last for? The Foreign Secretary, the Chancellor have been at odds on this issue of Brexit for some time.
Well, I never know what's going on in cabinet, and I guess you don't really. It's all speculation. But there has always been a unified approach, and clearly the Prime Minister is leading our charge to get out of Europe, and David Davis is the excellent Cabinet Secretary dealing with it. So, and I haven't actually seen anything in Parliament to say we're not just getting on with the job of coming out. I think the problem is that the media has to talk about something, so they speculate. Tomorrow we will know a little bit more, which will be good, but I do think the problem isn't the British government, and our view is the fact that the EU just cannot do a deal with us, because if they did a deal with us, it might well be the end of their European Union superstate.
We will look forward to hear what the Prime Minister has to say. Peter Bone, many thanks for joining us this afternoon.